Hi, welcome to another Revenue Hub video series. Following the success of our AI series in the summer, please do check it out if you haven't seen them yet, we decided it would be great to get our expert partners' views once more. In the spirit of this time of year, we've asked them to predict what 2026 might have in store for the hotel industry. Now, through these videos, we are not inundating you with please subscribe and please like requests. You guys know what to do. But we would be interested to hear your thoughts on the predictions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your predictions? Anyway, hope you enjoy it, and thanks again to our expert partners for taking part. Let's see what their predictions are. Hi, welcome to our 2026 Crystal Ball Predictions video series. Thank you so much for joining us. I know as we're running in towards the festive period, end of year, crazy busy time. So I really do appreciate you carving out a few moments to share your predictions. Before we get into it, welcome, and how are things for you?
Thanks, Trevor, for having me today. And indeed, I'm really looking forward to a few calm days over Christmas because it has been a super intense year. We're pretty well here, but there's always too much to do. But there is a reason why we do a lot, because things are moving so rapidly today.
Absolutely. And I think you're going to be touching on some of that during your predictions, I'm sure. So without any further ado, let's lean straight into it. What do you have for us in prediction number one?
Right. I mean, first, what we can see, and I mean, Apaleo, you might know, is a PMS platform. We have a lot of forward-thinking clients, hoteliers using our software. And one prediction for me would be for the next year that the rapid adoption of AI is actually going on and increasing its speed, even though you have this trough of disillusionment, which some people perceive, which is psychologically pretty normal. This wouldn't stop anything. That reminds me a lot of when the first internet bubble crashed and bursted in 2001. It did not have any impact on the speed and how the internet technology evolved. So we can really see how our clients are making progress on that topic. Like they have AI-based distribution running, AI-based revenue management, concierges, right? So they have phone channels open 24/7 where guests from all kind of countries and all languages can make bookings, amend their reservations and all that. So sometimes you have the feeling old technology like the phone is just perceiving a revival at the moment, powered by AI. Like we have clients, who analyze incoming reservations, try to find out based on AI what the guest really wants, then create tasks for the housekeeping to make it as good as to prepare everything as good as possible. So we really clearly see that adoption that is getting faster and faster, and prediction is this will go on in the next year, and it will be even more intense and faster in the next year.
It's an interesting prediction because a couple of conversations that we've had with other partners who have been discussing this have kind of lent a little bit into where you use that phrase, a trough of disillusionment. They've hypothesized that they could, the continued adoption of AI will carry on, but they also feel it might be 2026, maybe a little bit of a tipping point where people are getting fed up of being told what it could do for you and the hype around it, and are actually going to need to see real, active, impactful solutions. So what's your, I mean, you obviously feel it's going to lean into it, but I know you also deal with a lot of forward-thinking hotel companies. You've been a forward-thinking technology company for a number of years. That doesn't necessarily reflect the whole of the hotel sector. So I'd like to just tease out your thinking a little bit more.
All right. I think that's also true. I mean, we also always need to consider how short the time, when, for instance, LLMs came to like the magic moments of ChatGPT and others. This is only very few years ago. And, so we sometimes underestimate how short that time only is. And of course, you need a healthy view on the things, right? It's not about blue sky ideas that then cannot be realized. But what you definitely need today is You need to go on working with this, experimenting, bringing those things live that you can. And you also need to prepare from your technology basis to create an environment in your company with regards to organization, willingness to innovate, but also having the technologies in place to do this ongoing. You need to be prepared for that. So it's not
Hmm.
about waiting until everything is there and then doing a big bang, but it's about being on the forefront all the time, right? And trying to get the maximum out of it and to learn.
Let me just turn the table a little bit then, or turn the where the viewpoint. So
Mm.
if a hotel doesn't adopt at the pace that you would recommend or that you
Mm.
foresee may happen, what are the likely implications?
That's very hard to predict. I mean, there is you see, and this is of course not our business as a software company, but we even see sometimes in our clientele a trend of consolidation, right? So I mean, we had attempts to put hospitality as a platform, which fundamentally failed, as we
Hmm.
learned recently. But the topic itself is super relevant again, and I think there will be players who actually have a strong adoption of those technologies. They are there at the right moment in time, and that might be a big boost for them. So I think you might be then part of a consolidation at some time if you're not prepared for those moments. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Prediction number two.
Yeah, two is again a bit linked to that, but that was something that we already saw coming when we founded Apaleo a few years ago. Is that there has been an ongoing change in technology and software architecture
Hmm.
recently in the last over the last couple of years that is now hyperscaled, by AI, so to say,
Yep.
and that is SaaS fundamentally has been fundamentally changing over the last couple of years away from all-in-one UI first technologies where the business model is the number of seats
Yep.
that you sell
Yep.
towards platform businesses where the tech stack of a business and also of a hotel in the future is not anymore a few all-in-one SaaS systems, but a platform which actually hosts an agentic mesh. So a set of agents that support you in the business. We've been shaping this notion of what we call the autonomous hotel. So an autonomous hotel doesn't mean a neon light, everything automated, nobody there
Yeah. Yeah.
hotel. It can be a five-star hotel, right? With three people welcoming you, grabbing your luggage, leading you to your room.
Yep.
So the guest experience part is super sophisticated, extremely personal. The host is welcoming you, but the background, revenue management, price optimization, ordering a supply for breakfast, housekeeping, managing the channels, distribution, that can run fully autonomously in the background so that you
Hmm.
can really be a true host as a hotelier, right? And this is what we want to achieve. And for this, the classic SaaS model is not suitable. So, and you see
So
it
I
if
mean,
you look.
you're not predicting you're predicting a change in 2026, not its demise in 2026.
I see it, and you see it already if you look at the valuations of important SaaS companies. If you read a bit, they're massively losing seats,
Hmm.
means revenues, because the business model for SaaS in the future, and this is also valid for a PMS, right, and for other important application in the hotel tech stack. These they won't be paid by seats anymore in the future, but by completed tasks, and these
Okay.
tasks will be completed by agents. And this shift has already started and is going on. So what we also think is that the whole venture ecosystem is actually changing accordingly,
Hmm.
which means traditional SaaS models will have difficulties to get the capital to grow, right? I mean, SaaS is a lot growth business models. So that means as a hotelier, and we even predict that the numbers, the valuation, the revenue you will need next year to get funding as a SaaS company. To make an IPO even will be fundamentally different from last year,
Okay.
right? So
we'll dig into that in a minute, because I just want to pick up on something that you said there around the commercial model, the business model. So historically, it's been by the number of seats. Now you're saying you envisage it could be by tasks completed. So now the focus is not on use, but in productivity. Okay, that's got to be worked through. But I mean, that's quite an interesting shift in terms of how that business model will be constructed.
I think next year we will really, that will materialize to a first extent already, and we will see that. So for instance, and if you look at our own clientele, who is, for instance, using AI agents in practice. So we have quite a few clients who are really into that, where you can have like who have a clear roadmap on that. And you will see that change, that it's not so much user-based anymore. So you can really see this. And so I predict for the next year already a significant shift in when hotels select their technologies away from all-in-one UI-based SaaS products towards platforms that, of course, next year still host users, but also agents. Yeah.
Maybe that's quite interesting, because picking up on your first prediction about the adoption, and I was saying, some of the conversations we've had is about tying that back to what's it actually doing for me. You talking about the potential change in the business model there, I could see how that could start to shift the adoption, because people would then look at it and say, okay, well, we want to make that transition. We want to invest in it. We want to bring that into our hotel, but there's a degree of uncertainty. But if it's task orientated payment, then at least I know something is being done, and I'm paying for when it's being done. So I have a direct correlation between an outcome and my financial expenditure. That I could see how that would be a way that people might think, okay, well, I'm not just taking a gamble on this, that it may or may not work. I'm actually, those two things are aligned.
No, absolutely. And I think what you just said, the biggest momentum is always commerce, right? Getting the revenue. I mean, we have like revenues and costs in a hotel, plus of course guest experience, but the cost side is one thing, right? But the by far more impactful side for change is the revenue side in hospitality. Let's call it distribution. And there I see, and this is also another prediction, really first traction in the next year. So when you think a bit further, it becomes pretty obvious that we all will have or we have them already. We're using them. I mean, who doesn't, right? Our personal travel, AI-based travel assistants, where we plan our next trip. And these travel assistants then will also book the hotels for you.
Yeah.
That means the hotels, they need to be present in the agentic ecosystem for travel and room booking, right? And how that looks like is, and that you can already see, I mean, Apaleo has launched recently a ChatGPT IBE, so a booking engine that runs in ChatGPT to within your travel planning. You can actually book your hotel directly from ChatGPT. How this will look like, right? So how this works in practice, and that the travel agent is, to be connected to the hotel, and they will actually negotiate your next booking. And this has, of course, it's not only that it's a different technology, a different user interface where you book, like your personal AI-based travel assistant can talk to the booking agent of the hotel, which Apaleo is, by the way, providing. Like if you personally have a phone call with a hotelier, it's not just number of adults, arrival, departure date, and whatnot. It's about like having a fine-grained, subtle conversation about which room in the property is maybe the right one for you, coming with your family, 2 kids, 2 boys, they don't want to sleep in the same double bed, they need to be
Yeah.
separate. All these things can suddenly become part of the booking
Interesting.
process in real time,
Yeah.
right? And you see these things evolving currently.
And the
And
likelihood of them taking that and converting it into an actual booking is going to be far greater because you're dealing with the questions there and then at the time, rather than people having to go off and research it elsewhere and then decide whether they come back and book or not.
yes, exactly. And you see a clear route towards that. So companies like OpenAI, but also Booking.com, Expedia with a huge inventory,
Mm.
they buddied up with OpenAI
Yeah.
and they offer now some form of, let's call it agentic booking of a hotel room, right?
Hmm.
And if you think a bit further, and I think we will see this next year, is my other prediction, that even apart from Expedia and Booking.com partnering now with OpenAI, there will be a decentral ecosystem to allow guests for direct booking with the hotel. So a
Hmm.
hotel can actually, with their own agentic booking engine, be part of that ecosystem. The hotel is being identified by the personal travel assistant. When the travel assistant knows what intent the guest has, that they, for instance, want to go to that and that village in southern Tyrol and they
Hmm.
need that kind of stay, the travel agent will bring in the booking engine of that small specific hotel and it comes to a direct booking. So I
Yeah.
think the distribution market will be a bit reshuffled and that starts next year.
And I guess that comes back to your starting point of this prediction, where we've wandered off a little bit and come back onto it, is that if you continue, I mean, people are still using legacy systems and haven't moved
Mm,
into SaaS, but that's a completely
mm,
different story. If
mm,
people don't get into adopting AI, what you have just outlined in those last
mm.
5 minutes or so, they won't be able to they won't be able to access because the tools will not
Right.
be set up and
Yes.
geared to do that. So they're going to get the divide between them and like the OTA, because as you've outlined, Booking, Expedia are already dealing with this.
Mm,
So they get
mm,
left behind further than the OTAs, and then the hotels that they are competing with for direct bookings, they're getting left behind those as well, of the ones that have adopted AI and developing these kind of solutions and agents that can interface into their booking engine.
right.
Yeah.
That's, I think that's the thing why I think the trough of disillusionment is can be a trap, right? You need to be a
Yeah.
bit careful. I mean, we need to look at the development realistically, do experiments and foster the successful things. But I think hotels need to be to a certain extent prepared with regards to what technologies they actually install and implement today
Yeah.
to be prepared for those phases that they can install and adopt those things on their current tech stack if it suddenly is there, and it
Yeah.
will be there suddenly,
Yeah.
and constantly work with this and make the experience. I think you cannot start if you ignore it today, and then when it's there, then you start learning because the way how you develop, adopt, and roll out these things in your organization on the market, you need to learn what is the new SEO,
Mm.
right? It's something different than last year.
Hmm.
You need to learn to do all this,
Yeah. No,
right? And
that
better
makes
start today with maybe a small footprint, but
yeah.
start. Yeah.
Just do a pilot or do something
Yes.
just to get it going and
Yes.
see how it works. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Okay, prediction number 3. What have you got for us on that one?
Prediction number 3 is more than an outlook into the future. How would actually the hotel's technology stack look like when these things are materializing? Also for them to be prepared for those changes ahead of us is simply they move away from clunky, high integration costs, UI-centric systems towards platform that still allow the traditional business and seat-based usage today, but at the same time start using agentic workflows, getting used to that, and make your experience there. And my prediction is that this adoption will go on in the next year faster than it was in 2025.
Development of technology
Mhm.
is expensive and needs finance. How do you feel that model is going to change. You alluded a little bit to it earlier on when you were talking about IPOs that may not be happening. And one of the questions I had is not only whether or not it will impact people looking to invest in SaaS technology, but also I wonder how it will impact people looking to invest in AI when you can get AI to program much faster. So where historically it was always about how quickly can you get into the market? How quickly can you establish yourself in the market? How hard is it for somebody to replicate what you're doing? Well, now all of a sudden, speed to market is a lot quicker. Replication is a lot quicker. So I'm kind of interested to get your viewpoint on where finance and investment and how the oil that greases those wheels may be changed.
So that's, I think, a really interesting and fundamental one, because it's a bit getting divided into two layers. If you look a bit at the hotels, or hotels especially, because they're usually pretty international. So on a hotel, oftentimes you have a small and medium-sized business, which is then present, I don't know, in 10, 15 countries. That's very normal, right? So there, and there, with regards to your tech stack, agentic and platform, you have two layers. One is you have the very agile layer, which are the agents, right? That agentic workflows, agentic applications that come at a high speed. They evolve every couple of months, but they provide value to your business, new distribution possibilities, agentic booking. Staff management is different, and they're very non-deterministic, right? So they act like humans, but then and they need a lot of degree of freedom. There is a high degree of innovation, so you need a big level of flexibility there. But below this, you have all these chores like compliance, security, data privacy, GDPR. And in order to make an agentic layer work, you need to provide that rock solid, compliant, secure foundation for it. And I think this is where, and these things will then scale, right? And these things are also not easily to be replaced. It's not that you tell a coding assistant today, develop me a payment distribution and booking framework that is compliant in 25 countries. That won't work because they have a lot of certification processes. You need to work with authorities to get this all done, audits and so on. So I think the funding goes to those models that actually scale in this agentic area, which has started already, who host all these value propositions that are now evolving like crazy and making big progress every couple of months. And that is what the traditional seat-based SaaS model simply cannot do, because it cannot cope with all the changes. Right? The traditional SaaS model needs to build in all the innovation into their own product, which their own workforce will be never able to do, while the platform business leave the innovation to an open market, to third parties too, and just provides the rock solid compliant foundation for that.
So do you see the potential, maybe starting in 2026, it won't complete in 2026, but do you start to see the drying up of investment into SaaS technology and how that might influence consolidation and acquisitions?
Yeah, I mean, we can see this. The beauty of our business model is a bit that we are running such an ecosystem, and we see a constant deal flow. So we see the startups coming, and like we can observe, do they get funding? Are they making progress? And we can clearly see that a traditional SaaS, and I could name a few examples, right? But of course don't do, but they simply don't get the funding anymore, even though they make reasonable progress in their business and growth. Because the model is not protectable, the customer acquisition costs are high, and the potential seat-based revenue model is not appropriate anymore in the future. So we indeed see this.
Interesting. One question I did have for you, and it's slightly, I mean, it's related. I don't know whether it sits into this third prediction or if I should have asked it earlier. One of the questions that I have is we are continually producing more and more and more data. Is this going to be a point where the economics around the investment in these data centers, the running of these data centers, at some point that cost has to be passed down? Because investors, after a while, are maybe going to start to see, well, we're not going to continue to keep pumping money into this unless it can be actually starting to wipe its face a little bit on what it's costing us to actually host and perform tasks around this data. So, what's your view on where that may be going in the future?
I mean, first of all, and that's of course a super interesting point, especially as today we are discussing, up to climate change, right? How does AI actually influences our climate? There's the big prediction: AI will be at a certain point helpful to bring us to a more healthy climate. But now it seems to be doing the opposite, right? But I think looking a bit and I'm in the SaaS business already for more than 25 years, actually. Is that I think the story, if you mentioned storage costs, they are only a tiny little fraction of what they were like 10 years ago, not talking 20 years ago. So in storage, actually, I would say today, if I compare Apaleo's cost for hosting, we are hosted on AWS, right? I know precisely what I consume, where storage is not relevant. It's simply not relevant. What is relevant is computing. That's relevant. And but there, I mean, I'm not an expert in that, even though I did fundamental research in AI for quite a few years way back, is that the costs will also dramatically go down. I mean, you can read about prediction. I mean, we all had these kind of DeepSeek moments, where suddenly it was clear that even with less infrastructure, you can achieve similar results. And this is, I think, the fundamental progress we make in the theory and implementation architectures for AI. They will lead to much lower costs.
Makes a lot of sense. Fascinating. Great predictions. Great discussions. Very thought provoking. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Pleasure on my side. Real pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the predictions discussion interesting. If you'd like to see any of our videos from our Summer AI series, here is a link to that playlist. And if you've missed any of the other prediction videos, here is a link to that playlist. And finally, can I genuinely just thank you all for watching or listening to our content? It really is appreciated, and we look forward to bringing you more in 2026. Thanks so much. Take care.